acceleration, speed, 0 to 60, 0 to 100, 100 to 0, G-forces, GPS location, accelerator and brake usage, gear choice, sound. These are things we've always had in the performance data recorder, along with the ability to analyze your data like a professional engineer using Cosworth Toolbox. Now there's new automated recording options, so the PDR can act like a dash cam that comes on when you start the car. You can also time point-to-point road courses that you create and compare your performance on these custom routes day to day. With high-definition 1080p recording, the new PDR provides drivers with a higher quality memory of their drive. And if you're worried about how much fun the valet is having with your Corvette, well, the PDR can record that too.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Brink of Speed. Today we're going to talk about the Z51 C8 Corvette Astonishing MotorTrend as it beats GM performance numbers. So as you know, MotorTrend got their hands on this brand new 2020 mid-engine Corvette a couple months ago, and they've been having fun with it ever since. And we are going to talk about a few areas where it has completely beaten what GM was announcing the numbers would be: 0 to 60, quarter mile, braking test, and skid pad Gs. So let's get started with 0 to 60. As you know, recently, in the last couple of months, GM produced a 0 to 60 time that they stated would be 2.9 seconds for this brand new C8 Corvette. However, MotorTrend has gone out and done this in 2.8 seconds, a whole tenth of a second faster. And most people out there were thinking that this car was still going to remain around 3 seconds 0 to 60, even though GM had announced that it would be less than 3 seconds. So for MotorTrend to go out and get 0.2 of a second faster than what most people were expecting this car to do is pretty outstanding. Number two, the quarter mile. They announced about a month ago that the quarter mile time was 11.3, which was already ridiculous. A lot of people out there were saying that this car would be barely under 12 seconds if it was under 12 seconds. So for them to announce 11.3, that was just incredible by most people's standards, and really should have been by all people's standards. Now that MotorTrend has gotten their hands on this car though, they have recorded a quarter mile time of only 11.1 seconds. Again, 0.2 of a second faster than what GM initially said. So a quarter mile of 11.1 is only 1.5 tenths slower than my 650 horsepower Z06. That is absolutely astonishing. Now, how are they doing this? Well, it's because of two very important key components to this car. Number one, the engine is placed centrally located in the car, but is putting a lot of weight down on those rear tires. Number two is the 8-speed dual clutch transmission that Chevrolet decided to go with in this new C8 Corvette. Both of those two things combined are helping this car to accelerate from 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds and the quarter mile in 11.1. This is phenomenal. So for all of those naysayers and doubters out there, you can go ahead and put this in the supercar category, which is something that you've been trying to resist, but it is a supercar. GM has just done an excellent job. Leave me a comment below if you agree with this, and give me a big thumbs up if you love the 0 to 60 and quarter mile times that I just told you about. Now, let's move on to a couple of items that are not as fun to talk about because they didn't score as well as I actually thought they would or hoped that they would. So in the braking test, they were able to come to a stop from 60 to 0 in 97 feet. Now, That's not the greatest braking distance from 60 to 0 that I've ever heard of. However, when my car, the 2015 Corvette Z06, was tested, it broke from 60 to 0 in 99 feet. Now, there are some people that have tested it that say they get 93 feet or less. Now, what MotorTrend said about the brakes was their function was a little less desirable than they had hoped for. Although they did brake from 60 to 0 in 97 feet, they still did not like the way that the brakes faded during cornering maneuvers and around their road course. So this is something that I feel like anybody that's going to take their Z51 Stingray to the track is probably going to want to check it out for the first time, check those brakes, see what they feel like to them, and then they'll probably end up wanting to do a different brake package for that car, especially if they're going to track it often. So MotorTrend was a little disappointed with the brakes. Now, the next item of business is the skid pad. The skid pad is one of my favorite tests, and I have to say that I'm a little disappointed in the numbers that came off of the skid pad. Now, I will explain the numbers and then I will tell you why I believe that this happened. They tested the skid pad with both the all-season tires and the summer tires. The summer tires are the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, and they were able to get a 1.04 lateral G on the skid pad. Now, that is a far cry from what the Z06 did it in 2015. However, I think that if this car had a pair of Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires on it, that it would be well over 1.1 G-forces, just like the Z06. Those summer tires are not meant to be pushed that hard, and I do know that they do get a little bit slippery and greasy when heated up quickly. And that's exactly what the skid pad does to tires. Now, we also know that Chevrolet put a fair amount of understeer in this new C8 Corvette. The reason being is because back in the day when Porsche came out with their rear engine cars, they had huge snap oversteer, and that obviously was a big issue for people and their safety. And so even though this is a mid-engine car, and mid-engine cars have a lot less snap oversteer than a rear-engine car, they still can have snap oversteer. And that's something that they wanted to minimize for the consumer, because most consumers are not going to be taking this to the track and putting it through its paces. So they put a pretty sizable amount of understeer built into the suspension of this car. And with that being said, of course, doing a skid pad G-force test, this car is going to push to the outside harder than the previous Corvette Z06, because that Corvette Z06 has a lot of oversteer and not much understeer. Practically zero understeer. So this is something that can be fixed, but you would have to do that with the Z51 package not having the front end lift, so that you can adjust the suspension in the front and the rear, and that would help you mitigate the amount of understeer that GM has put in this C8 Corvette. So that's it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give me a big thumbs up. I wanted to get this information out to you as quickly as possible since it just came out from MotorTrend. And if you have not joined this Brink of Speed community, make sure you smash that red subscribe and bell notification so that you're notified when my new content comes out. Make sure and visit the Brink of Speed store and get your merch and support the Brink of Speed community with that. And I hope each and every one of you have a wonderful rest of your week.